Have you ever felt a sudden heaviness in one arm? A moment where your thoughts didn't connect? Or a brief blur in your vision that came and went before you could make sense of it? Many of my patients have described these moments with a mix of confusion and fear, unsure whether to speak up or simply brush it off as another part of getting older. One patient once told me, "It lasted only a few seconds, so I didn't want to bother anyone." That hesitation is far more common than you might imagine. I want you to picture something with me. Imagine your brain as a city filled with tiny roads carrying oxygen and nutrients to every neighborhood. Now imagine one of those roads narrowing for just a moment. Traffic slows, signals flicker, lights dim. The city doesn't shut down, but something feels off. That is exactly how the earliest warnings of a stroke often begin. Not with dramatic collapse or sudden paralysis, but with subtle shifts that many seniors overlook. Most people don't realize that strokes rarely start loud. They often begin quietly through tiny mini-strokes called TIAs, nighttime blood pressure spikes, or inflammation that slowly narrows blood vessels. And because the medical system tends to focus on the classic stroke signs, many older adults never hear about these early whispers until it's too late. After 60, the body becomes more sensitive to even the smallest changes. Arteries stiffen, circulation slows, and the brain depends heavily on steady oxygen. That's why a brief moment of confusion or sudden fatigue feels different than it did years ago. It isn't weakness, it's physiology. This matters because more than 1 in 5 strokes in seniors could have been prevented if these early signals had been recognized. Silent strokes can steal memory, energy, and clarity long before anyone realizes what happened. In this video, you and I will gently walk through the subtle signs many seniors ignore. The signals that appear days or even weeks beforehand. The lifestyle habits that increase risk. The supplements and routines that protect the brain. And real stories that help make the science come alive. So take a breath, settle in, and let's begin this important conversation together. And if you haven't subscribed to Senior Health Daily yet, I invite you to join our community so you never miss the guidance your body deserves. The science behind hidden strokes in seniors. As we move deeper into this topic, I want you to imagine your brain for what it truly is, a beautiful, delicate network of pathways that have carried every memory, every emotion, every decision you've ever made. After 60, these pathways work just as faithfully as they did years ago, but they become more sensitive to changes that once went unnoticed. That sensitivity is one of the biggest reasons hidden strokes are more common in older adults, and it's something many people never hear clearly explained. When we talk about strokes, we often picture a sudden, dramatic event. But in reality, many strokes begin with something much quieter. Aging naturally causes our arteries to stiffen, and stiff arteries don't move blood as smoothly as they used to. Blood flow becomes less flexible. Oxygen delivery slows down. And when the brain doesn't receive steady, rich oxygen, even for a few seconds, cells begin to struggle. Not die, not collapse, but struggle. And that struggle is where hidden stroke symptoms begin. You might be surprised to learn that tiny, almost invisible strokes called TIAs are extremely common, especially after 60. These mini-strokes often last only minutes. A small cluster of brain cells becomes deprived of oxygen, then recovers, leaving behind a faint but important warning. Most seniors dismiss these moments as fatigue, dizziness, or just getting older, but what the brain is really saying is, "Something blocked my blood flow. Pay attention." I once had a patient who told me he kept feeling a strange pressure behind one eye, almost like someone was gently pushing on it from the inside. It wasn't painful, just odd. He ignored it for weeks, until one afternoon his vision briefly doubled, and he finally came in. Tests later showed he had experienced several small oxygen dips due to narrowing in a tiny artery. The early symptom wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And it was his brain trying to warn him. Inflammation also plays a powerful role. As we age, chronic inflammation subtly thickens the blood and makes vessels a little less flexible. This combination increases the chance of small clots forming and traveling to the brain. Understanding this science isn't meant to frighten you. It's meant to empower you. Your body is always communicating. Those tiny, quiet changes matter, and when you learn to notice them, you give your brain the protection it deserves. Quiet stroke symptoms most seniors overlook. As we continue, I want you to think back to a moment when your body did something that felt not quite right, but the feeling disappeared before you could make sense of it. Maybe you stood up and felt an unusual wave of fatigue. Maybe your thoughts drifted for a moment and you couldn't find the right words. Or maybe your vision blurred just long enough for you to blink it away and move on. These are the kinds of moments most seniors ignore, and yet they can be early whispers of a hidden stroke. The most surprising part is that these symptoms often feel too mild to be medical. Seniors tell me all the time, "It was only a few seconds," or "I thought I was just tired," or "I didn't want to worry anyone." But the brain doesn't always shout when something is wrong. More often, it murmurs, and those murmurs matter. One of the most common early signs is sudden fatigue that feels different from normal tiredness. It arrives quickly and doesn't match your activities. You could be sitting comfortably and suddenly feel drained. That kind of fatigue can signal that a small area of the brain wasn't getting enough oxygen for a moment. Another quiet symptom is brief confusion. You may forget what you were about to say. You may pause during a sentence because the next word won't come. Seniors tend to shrug this off as aging, but when it happens suddenly and out of character, it's worth noticing. Vision changes are another overlooked sign. A moment of double vision, a brief shadow in one eye, or a flicker of blurred vision that appears and disappears quickly can be a sign that the visual centers of the brain were under stress. Many are surprised to learn that the visual areas of the brain are extremely sensitive to small oxygen dips. Some seniors feel tingling or heaviness in a hand or leg that fades after a minute or two. Others experience a strange floaty dizziness or a sudden shift in mood for no apparent reason, almost like their emotions changed faster than their thoughts could follow. I always tell my patients this: if something feels unusual for your body, even for a few seconds, take it seriously. You know your body better than anyone else. When something feels off, there is always a reason. These moments are not inconveniences, they're information. And learning to listen to them is one of the most powerful ways to protect your brain. Nighttime stroke warning signs.
Action!
As we move further into this topic, I want you to pause and think about your evenings. Nighttime is often when the body finally slows down. The house gets quiet, the lights dim, and the noise of the day settles. But for many seniors, nighttime is also when the most confusing and frightening symptoms appear. And there's a reason for that. When you lie down to sleep, your circulatory system changes position. Blood redistributes, blood pressure can shift, and your heart must work a little differently to stabilize rhythm and keep oxygen flowing smoothly to the brain. In younger adults, these shifts happen effortlessly, but after 60, the body becomes more sensitive to these changes. This is why some seniors feel strange sensations at night, like head pressure, numbness, tightness, or a sudden awareness of their heartbeat. One of my patients, an older gentleman in his 70s, told me that he felt perfectly fine during the day, but almost every night he would wake up with a strange pressure at the back of his head. It lasted only moments, and he blamed it on his pillow. When we later examined him, we found his blood pressure was spiking while he slept. Those nighttime spikes were silent warnings of stress on his brain's blood vessels. Breathing also plays a major role. Many seniors unintentionally breathe more shallowly at night, especially when lying flat. Sleep apnea is incredibly common and often undiagnosed. When breathing pauses or becomes too shallow, oxygen drops. The brain is extremely sensitive to these dips, and that's when some seniors feel numbness in their hands, tingling in their face, or a sensation that their heart is pounding too hard or too fast. Another patient once described waking up feeling like her arm didn't belong to her. It felt heavy, almost disconnected, but the sensation faded before she could decide what to do. These moments can easily be dismissed as sleeping wrong, but they can also be early signs that the brain is struggling to receive enough oxygen during the night. Nighttime is when we notice symptoms more intensely because everything else around us is still. There is no distraction. The body's whispers feel louder. And for the brain, it's the time when oxygen stability matters most. Understanding these nighttime changes can be life-saving. Your body is not trying to frighten you, it's trying to communicate. When you learn to recognize these signals, especially the ones that appear in the quiet hours, you place yourself in the best position to protect your health. Lifestyle triggers that increase stroke risk. When it comes to hidden stroke risks, one of the most eye-opening truths is that many of the triggers aren't medical at all. They are woven into daily routines, the quiet habits that feel harmless because they've been part of life for decades. Yet these simple patterns can quietly place more pressure on the brain's delicate blood vessels than most seniors realize. Take sitting for long periods, for example. Many older adults spend hours watching TV, reading, or scrolling through a phone without moving much. It feels restful, even comforting, but the body interprets long stillness very differently. Blood begins to pool in the legs, circulation slows, and the heart must work harder to push blood upward toward the brain. I remember a woman who told me her legs often felt heavy by evening, but she didn't think much of it. That heaviness was her body's way of saying circulation was falling behind. Another subtle trigger is dehydration. Seniors often drink less water to avoid nighttime bathroom trips, but what they don't always see is how dehydration thickens the blood and reduces oxygen flow. A man once told me that every afternoon he felt a strange fog settle over him. But when he started drinking a little more water throughout the day, that fog lifted. The brain cannot function well without proper hydration, and even mild dehydration can increase stroke risk significantly. High-sodium meals are another hidden culprit. Many easy-to-prepare foods, soups, frozen dinners, snacks, carry salt levels far higher than the body needs. Salt tightens blood vessels and raises blood pressure, especially at night. A patient once described feeling a pulsing sensation in his temples after dinner. It wasn't stress. It was salt. Emotional stress before bed is one of the most underestimated triggers. Seniors often feel lonely, anxious, or unsettled in the quiet of the evening. Cortisol rises, breathing becomes shallow, blood pressure creeps up, the brain's oxygen supply becomes inconsistent. One woman shared with me that she felt waves of pressure in her head only at night. Her biggest trigger wasn't her heart or her diet. It was her worry. And finally, chronic inflammation plays a quiet but powerful role. Conditions like arthritis, autoimmune diseases, or even untreated gum inflammation can increase the risk of clot formation. Inflammation is like tiny embers in the bloodstream, and when they burn too long, they create the perfect environment for trouble. These triggers aren't here to scare you, they're here to empower you. When you recognize them, you begin to understand how your everyday life shapes your brain's safety. And the beautiful truth is that every small adjustment, more movement, more hydration, gentler evenings, can dramatically lower your risk. Medical conditions that raise risk. As we continue this conversation, I want to gently guide you into something many seniors find difficult to talk about: the medical conditions that quietly raise the risk of hidden strokes. These aren't dramatic emergencies. They're the everyday conditions that become more common with age and slowly shape how the brain receives oxygen and nutrients. When we understand how they work, they become far less frightening and far more manageable. Let's begin with high blood pressure. Many seniors think of it as just a number on a machine, but it's far more than that. High blood pressure is like turning up the pressure in a garden hose. When the pressure stays high for too long, the hose begins to wear down. The same is true for the small blood vessels in the brain. They become stressed, tired, and fragile. I remember one patient who came to me saying she felt a tightening sensation around her scalp every evening. It wasn't anxiety or tension. It was a quiet sign that her blood pressure was rising at night. Atrial fibrillation, or an irregular heartbeat, is another common condition after 60. Many seniors don't feel the irregular rhythm at all, but for some, it creates tiny clots that can travel upward and block small brain vessels. One gentleman told me he occasionally felt his heart flutter like a bird in his chest. He didn't think it mattered because it only happened for a moment. But those moments were signals that his heart rhythm needed attention. Diabetes also plays a significant role. Over time, high blood sugar gently damages blood vessels, making them less flexible and less capable of delivering oxygen consistently. When the brain receives less oxygen, even small blockages can have a larger impact. Seniors often describe feelings of fogginess or slowed thinking, not realizing that these symptoms can be tied to changes in blood sugar and brain blood flow. Carotid artery narrowing is another hidden factor. These arteries sit on each side of your neck and act like highways bringing blood directly to the brain. When they narrow, the brain has to work harder for every drop of oxygen. Some seniors notice brief moments of dizziness or a sensation of pressure behind the eyes. The body is whispering, asking for attention. High cholesterol, chronic inflammation, and autoimmune conditions also raise risk by thickening the blood or irritating vessel walls. The good news is that when these conditions are understood and supported, the brain becomes far more resilient. Every condition I've mentioned has something in common. None of them make you powerless. With knowledge, awareness, and gentle daily care, you can reduce their impact and protect your brain's future with remarkable success. Supplements that support brain and stroke prevention. Now that we've explored the daily habits and medical conditions that increase stroke risk, I want to shift towards something more hopeful: the tools that can strengthen the brain and support healthier circulation. Supplements are not magic, and they should never replace medical care, but when used properly, they can make a meaningful difference, especially after 60, when the body's natural reserves begin to decline. One of the most powerful nutrients for brain protection is omega-3 fatty acids. These healthy fats help reduce inflammation and support smooth blood flow, almost like oiling the hinges of a door that has begun to creak. I had a patient who struggled with frequent brain fog and occasional tingling in her fingers. After she began using a high-quality omega-3 supplement consistently, she noticed clearer thinking and fewer episodes. Her body simply needed the support it could no longer produce at the same levels. Magnesium is another quiet hero. Seniors are often deficient without knowing it, and low magnesium can affect everything from blood pressure to muscle tension to nerve communication. One gentleman told me that his nighttime head pressure eased dramatically after he began taking a gentle form of magnesium. His brain and blood vessels were finally able to relax instead of fighting to maintain balance. Vitamin D3 paired with vitamin K2 is also incredibly important. These two nutrients work together to support healthy blood vessels and keep calcium moving where it belongs. Many seniors spend less time outside, and their vitamin D levels drop without them noticing. When these levels are restored, circulation improves, and the brain receives more stable support. CoQ10 is another supplement I often recommend, especially for seniors taking statin medications. CoQ10 helps fuel the tiny energy engines inside each cell, including the cells that keep blood vessels flexible. When levels are low, seniors may feel fatigued or mentally sluggish, not realizing their cells are simply running low on energy. Turmeric, curcumin, and probiotics round out the picture by reducing inflammation and supporting gut health, which plays a surprising role in overall brain and vascular function. One woman shared with me that her morning headaches faded after she supported her gut, something she never imagined was connected. The purpose of sharing these examples is not to suggest that supplements are solutions by themselves. It's to remind you that your body is incredibly responsive, especially when it receives the nutrients it needs. Small additions, when chosen wisely and paired with healthy routines, can offer the brain remarkable protection. Senior-friendly daily habits that lower stroke risk. As we talk about hidden stroke risks, I want to shift our attention towards something deeply empowering: the everyday habits that can quietly and steadily protect the brain. These habits don't require expensive equipment, strict routines, or drastic life changes. They're small, gentle shifts that fit naturally into the rhythm of a senior's life. and yet they carry the power to improve circulation, calm inflammation, and support clearer thinking. One of the most effective habits is gentle movement in the evening. Our bodies are not designed to go from hours of sitting straight into bed. When the muscles stay still too long, blood pools in the legs and circulation slows, making the brain work harder to receive oxygen. I had a patient who used to feel lightheaded every night when she stood up from her recliner. She started taking a slow 5-minute walk around her home each evening, just enough to wake up her circulation before bedtime. Within a week, that lightheadedness was gone. Deep breathing is another powerful tool. Many seniors breathe shallowly without noticing, especially when dealing with stress or loneliness. When breathing becomes too shallow, the brain receives less oxygen, and this can trigger hidden stroke-like symptoms such as dizziness, fogginess, or pressure in the temples. Practicing simple diaphragmatic breathing for just 2 or 3 minutes before bed can stabilize oxygen flow and calm the nervous system. It is one of the gentlest, most effective habits I teach. Hydration timing also matters more than most people realize. Drinking large amounts of water at night may lead to trips to the bathroom, but sipping small amounts throughout the day keeps the blood at a healthy consistency. I often tell seniors that hydration is like maintaining the oil in a car. Without it, everything has to work harder, especially the brain. What you eat in the evening also plays a role. Heart-friendly meals with vegetables, lean proteins, or a light soup help reduce inflammation and stabilize nighttime blood pressure. Heavy meals, salty snacks, or late-night sweets make the brain and heart work overtime when they should be resting. And then there is the neck. Many seniors never realize how much the neck influences brain circulation. Gentle neck mobility exercises, slow head turns, or light stretches help keep blood flowing through the carotid arteries. One man told me he no longer felt that odd pressure behind his eyes after adding these simple movements to his morning routine. Consistent sleep completes the picture. A regular bedtime, dim lighting, and a quiet space help the brain settle into deeper rest, which lowers blood pressure and reduces nighttime stroke risk. These habits are not difficult. They are acts of daily kindness toward your body, and when practiced consistently, they can create a future that feels lighter, steadier, and far more protected. When subtle symptoms become emergency warning signs. As we near the end of this deeper exploration, I want to talk with you about something incredibly important: knowing when a subtle symptom crosses the line into something that needs immediate attention. This isn't about creating fear, it's about creating confidence. Because when you understand what your body is telling you, you can respond with clarity instead of panic. Hidden stroke symptoms are often soft and quiet, but there are moments when the body shifts from whispering to speaking more firmly. One of the first signs is sudden weakness in the face, arm, or leg, usually on one side of the body. Sometimes seniors describe it as feeling like the limb suddenly belongs to someone else, or like it lost its strength without warning. Even if that sensation lasts only a minute or two, it deserves immediate attention. Another sign is difficulty speaking. You might know exactly what you want to say, but the words feel stuck or come out jumbled. I once had a patient who suddenly couldn't form a clear sentence while talking to her granddaughter. It lasted less than a minute, and she brushed it off as being tired. A week later, she experienced a more serious stroke. If she had come in earlier, we could have prevented it. Vision changes that appear suddenly and dramatically are also major warnings. Losing part of your field of vision, seeing darkness on one side, or experiencing sudden double vision is the brain signaling that something urgent is happening. Seniors often assume it's their glasses or the lighting, but true stroke-related vision changes come on quickly and feel different from normal. A sudden, intense headache can also be a red flag, especially if it arrives like a bolt of lightning, unlike any headache you've had before. These headaches are often described as alarming or overwhelming, not just uncomfortable. Severe dizziness, sudden loss of balance, or a wave of confusion that feels overpowering can also signal a major change in brain blood flow. These sensations are important because they often appear in seniors who have already experienced smaller, hidden strokes without realizing it. In every one of these situations, the key is timing. The faster someone gets help, the more brain cells can be saved, and the greater the chance of full recovery. It's not about being fearful, it's about honoring your body and trusting that taking action is an act of strength, not worry. Your body will always give you signs. The more clearly you understand them, the more confidently you can protect your independence, your memory, and your future. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want you to carry one message with you above all the others. Your body isn't punishing you. It's communicating with you. Every moment of dizziness, every flash of confusion, every strange heaviness or brief shift in vision is not a personal failure or a sign of weakness. It is your brain asking for care, attention, and understanding. And there is so much power in simply listening. Your brain and heart have carried you through every chapter of your life. They have held your memories, your joys, your challenges, your triumphs, and the moments that shaped you into the person you are today. Caring for them now is not something you owe anyone else. It's an act of appreciation for everything they have carried on your behalf. It is a gentle way of saying thank you to the body that has stayed with you through every season. And I want you to feel empowered, not overwhelmed. The habits we talked about aren't difficult or dramatic. Drinking water throughout the day, taking a short walk in the evening, practicing deeper breathing, staying aware of how your body feels, and recognizing the early whispers before they grow louder. These small moments of care can create meaningful change. Awareness is the very first step toward protection. There is real hope here. Even after 60, 70, or 80, the brain responds beautifully to better care. New routines can strengthen blood flow. Calmer evenings can reduce pressure on fragile vessels. A simple shift in daily habits can bring back clarity, comfort, and confidence. Your health future is not fixed. It's shapeable, and you have more influence over it than you may realize. So as we close, let me leave you with this. Your brain is still listening, and every choice you make today protects your tomorrow. If this message touched you or helped you understand your body more clearly, I invite you to subscribe to Senior Health Daily so we can continue this journey together, one caring step at a time.